Hey guys, Eric Tarr here for ProToolsTemplates.com. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between the session templates that I've created here and your stock plugin presets. Now it's true that there are many high quality plugins that come with presets that have already been dialed in for specific instruments. An example of this would be an equalizer that's already been set up for an acoustic guitar. Another example would be a compressor that's already dialed in for a snare drum. For many people, these presets are very useful. Whether you're an engineer that's first just getting started and you're not sure how to set up all the parameters that you need to use for an equalizer, whether you're an experienced engineer that just wants to achieve good results very quickly and easily. Nonetheless, there have been many complaints about using plugin presets for years. When it comes to effects processors, the main complaint comes down to the fact that whoever created that preset had no idea about the actual signal that was going to eventually be processed by that plugin. Going back to my example of the acoustic guitar and equalizer, there was no way of knowing ahead of time when the preset was created what specific acoustic guitar you're going to use and how you're going to capture that with a specific microphone. Therefore, the preset might not actually sound very good with your specific recording. Then when it comes to compressors, it's even more difficult to come up with a good preset. And that's because so many parameters in the compressor, like the threshold, depend on the input level of the signal that's coming into the compressor. Finally, when it comes to individual effects processors, there's typically no consideration given to where that effects processor shows up in an entire signal chain of effects processors. For instance, you might equalize something completely different before a compressor than you would after a compressor. Nonetheless, the major complaint about effects processors is that there's no real way of knowing for these presets what signal is actually going to be used. Now, virtual instruments come with their own set of presets a lot of times. The good thing about those presets is whoever programs them completely knows ahead of time what signal is going to be used, and that's because the sample is generating the signal inside of the virtual instrument. Now, there are many fantastic companies that spend a lot of time and effort and specialize in creating these virtual instruments, and they do a great job, fantastic job of creating these sample libraries. Nonetheless, they don't always spend the same amount of time and effort creating the processors that are going to be available inside of their virtual instrument to treat those samples. And that's why, for the most part, when using virtual instruments, what you want to do is route that signal outside of the virtual instrument into your Pro Tools session and then treat it with these other effects processors that have been created by companies that specialize in creating those kinds of plugins. And that's exactly what I've done in these templates. What I've done is taken these high-quality effects processors, dialed them in specifically based on the signals that are being generated in the virtual instruments that I'm using here. Hopefully this gives you a better idea then about the advantage of using session templates rather than just using plugin presets. But you can decide for yourself. Please check out my audio examples and check out my videos. And thanks again for stopping by ProToolsTemplates.com.